Today on the podcast, we have Daniel from South Carolina. Hi, Daniel.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
It's good to have you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's
You,
it's awesome to be here.
you told me a minute ago you were fangirling.
Yeah, yeah. My wife and we're small business owners. We own a branding studio, so we work with all kinds of people all over the country. We specifically for the most of the time we work with women leaders, and
Wow.
every now and then we come across someone who's just cool, and I think you're pretty dope. So I was just like, oh, I'm getting to talk to Miss Deborah today.
Well, thank you. How do you know how we connected in the first place? Do you remember how, our paths crossed?
Well, I do. It was very vivid. I was on a late night Walmart run. I've got three little girls,
Yeah.
and
Oh, we know the
I was,
drill.
oh man, yeah, you know how it goes. And I was literally sitting in our minivan, of course, and
Yeah.
I'm just like listening to the Christian radio, and you pop on, and I'm like, who is this girl? And I start listening, and you mentioned soul care, and I'm like, okay, what's up? And literally like turn my phone on airplane mode. I'm like, okay, I'm listening. And
Wow.
in the first 5 minutes, I got on Amazon, ordered the book, it was like a pre-order, and I just felt like it was speaking directly to my heart.
That's amazing. So you've got
Yeah.
three girls. How long have you been married?
8 years.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
amazing. And you guys are entrepreneurs.
we are. Yes, ma'am.
And you're doing it together, right? Like you're
We are
both in
doing
the
it together.
business.
Yeah. My wife, even though she's full, mama all the time, which we call her prolific mama.
Hmm.
Even though that's, her full-time job, she steps in and I call her my lead consultant. I consult everything I do design wise, branding wise, talk about relationships with clients. I sit down with her when we're having coffee at 6 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, she's
Wow,
my partner.
that's amazing. You guys are
Yeah.
doing a
Oh man,
lot of good stuff.
it's crazy.
So tell me, what is on your mind today? What do you want to talk to me about?
Okay, so my question's pretty simple, and I would love to learn for myself, but hopefully it can help others.
Yeah.
And it's pretty simple. I have it written down here. It's at what point should someone move on from solely relying upon prayer to exploring antidepressants specifically?
Mm. Oh, that's a loaded question.
Girl, let's do it.
Okay, so I have some follow-up questions first.
Okay,
It's hard to answer a question without follow-up questions.
right.
So this someone that we're talking about, is it you?
Hello.
Okay, so that's helpful. So I can ask some direct questions. So,
Yes, please.
first of all, the premise of the question brings up some questions for me. So,
Okay.
even the question itself, relying on prayer
Mm,
versus then I also bring in antidepressants.
yeah,
Um, I think prayer is such an important part of all of life.
yeah.
But when I look at the options of treating depression,
Mm,
the options in my mind are not door number one, prayer, door number
yeah,
two, medication.
yeah.
I think there's a lot more in between that
Mm,
we can do. And I think prayer follows us through the entire path of healing. Prayer is the
mm,
foundation, prayer is the road, it's the
mm,
journey, it's the constant.
mm,
But then I think there's other things for us to consider. So,
yeah.
so right off the bat, we start with assessing what's the severity of the
Mm,
depression. So there's
okay.
different
Okay.
severities. If we had to think of it in three levels, the green level, the yellow level, the red level. I
Okay.
would say green is what we call mild depression. It's coming up every now and again.
Mm,
It's kind of like getting a little bit of a cold every now and again. I'm
okay.
struggling a little bit, and then it passes, and I'm able to kind of push through. The symptoms are mild, so it doesn't last long. It's not severe. It's not getting in the way of my everyday functioning. I
Okay.
can still get out of bed, do what I need to do. It just feels a little bit heavier when I'm struggling with depression. That's what I would put in the mild category.
Okay.
Then the yellow category, yellow flag,
Mm,
is the moderate depression. And
okay.
that's when I'm slowly starting to feel like the depression is starting to also affect my body.
Okay.
Maybe I'm starting to see some things in my sleep and my concentration and my energy levels. and maybe it's lasting a little bit longer than usual. And, I'm still functioning. I'm still able to do everything that I need to do. It's
Mm,
just weighing on me a little bit heavier.
okay.
And then the third level, the red zone, is when it's severe and
Okay.
it's really starting to get in the way of everyday life. I'm unable to do the things I want to do in the way that I want them to do. I'm having a harder time getting out of bed, working out, doing the things that I want to do. I'm feeling overwhelmed a lot faster about those everyday tasks. You specifically want to
Yeah.
look at your everyday life tasks as well as your everyday relationships, because those are the two areas where you're going to see the
Mm,
severity the most.
okay. Okay.
So that would be my first thing. Like, let's
Yeah.
assess what level we're at. So
Okay.
with that scale, where
Yeah.
would you put yourself?
You know, it's for the past few months specifically, I just saw uh, a fall, I guess you could say. It's just such a dip. Now, I'm unfortunately very familiar, I guess you could say. I know that a lot of creative people that I've met, it seems like it's it rears its head in with the calling. I don't know, and maybe that's a total misconception. But unfortunately, the vast majority of creative friends and professionals that I have struggled at some capacity with it. So, but
I'll put it this way.
yeah,
Creatives tend to feel deeply
yes,
for
yeah,
good and for not so good, just kind of
yes,
depending on the season.
that's right. So for specifically the past few months, it was just like number one. Um, I physically started to go through things I never had before.
Yeah.
Sciatic nerve things, incredible tiredness, all of these things. I had this major infection in my head and had to go to an ER, tooth related, all of these things, and it was just one after another. And it felt very dramatic. So with that being said, as of late, it's crossed more into that red category where
Yeah.
I would still show up, but it was almost like, you're going, but the lights are turned off. It's just kind of staying there. And my wife would make comments, normally I'm a pretty joyful person, but it was just that very subdued, I'm just checking out here and not being
Yeah.
able to figure out how to actually um, hop over.
So when people think of depression, a lot of people think of somebody being curled up in a
Yeah.
ball, crying. That's not always the case.
Mm,
Oftentimes it is this like thick apathy of
mm,
just like this numb. I'm not excited.
yes.
I don't feel anything. What is that what it was for you?
Oh yeah. Just um very difficult. How would I describe it? Like um difficult to celebrate almost. Like, something great could happen, but it was just like, bro, like this means nothing to me. And then even things that should be bad, or should be um, producing a reaction or a response, I'm just like, no, but feeling it's just the weight, just that incredible heaviness, not necessarily like sadness or like suicidal thoughts or anything, but just the wet blanket. Like, come on, man, not being
Yeah.
able to really express.
Yeah. So when you look back at your history, have
Yeah.
you had bouts with this over time?
I have, and what's cray cray is today marks almost to the day. Pretty sure tomorrow would be exactly 12 years. I had a suicide attempt,
Mm,
and I've been it. It was the best thing that could have ever happened to me because I had a legitimate. I know you're a believer, so I can talk about the Lord up in here, which is cool. I had
absolutely.
my whoa, hello. This dude is the real, real, real. And
Wow.
even though I grew up as a believer and exhibited all this spiritual fruit and everything, that was where it was like, what I've shared in my testimony with people is, when Jesus, he's chilling out, everyone's like, crucify him, and then the dude's like, okay, well, we can't just kill the guy, like we got to swap him out for somebody. So who are they? shouting out, "Oh, Barabbas, Barabbas." That was the moment when I felt like saved, like encounter with the Lord. It was, I called out his name. I was about to kill myself. I called out his name, and it was the first time where it felt like something was actually physically on me and came off of
Wow.
me. And it was like he traded places with me. It was like, you were about to die. I'm gonna stand in, intercede here. I'm gonna actually die, and now you just go free. And it like
Wow.
it launched me. My wife and I, we were missionaries for years. We are still like low key undercover missionaries, but branding is like our tent making because I just suck at support raising. Um, and like just the real shout out to all the missionary friends who like y'all crushing that. That was not us. We were Poe. um, but no, that 12 years ago, almost to the day, was when this all happened and it launched me. I mean, my life, boom, changed, like changed. So
Wow.
that was my significant, like, here it is right here. And
Yeah.
for years, I didn't see much of that coming back, but it was because soul care. I
Yeah.
I got delivered of shame. That was huge, baby. Like I got delivered of shame over some childhood things, which has become part of my story. That I've got to walk like dozens and dozens and dozens of people through, some shady stuff that happens in your childhood and the Me Too kind of thing, and lead them through. So, um, because of soul care, because of actually really going in and not just the self care, like I'm gonna scrub my face a little bit better today, but like to go in deep, it's produced so much more of that. Like I haven't seen that type of like depression, I guess you would call that. But for some reason, it'll keep coming back every now and then. And this last bout has been like pretty pretty crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what you said is really significant. Soul
Mm,
care is the preventative maintenance
mm,
for some of us who battle depression. And I say some of us because I would put myself in that
yeah.
category, anxiety, depression.
Yeah.
And here's why. What soul care does for us is it helps us keep our body at baseline.
Mm,
When our body gets out of sync because of stress, stress is the number one
mm,
chemical that begins to hijack everything else. The cortisol
wow.
that's released in stress, even good stress,
Mm,
being an entrepreneur, growing a
yeah.
business, having kids, renovations, holidays, all good things come with a level
Mm,
of stress. But then you add the not so good things, the difficult
yeah.
things, the trauma. So when we're
Yeah.
not really taking inventory of our stress levels and we're just doing life, the
Yeah.
stress will build and build and build. When cortisol
Mm,
gets to a level where it's really high, it
yeah.
begins to hijack our serotonin and dopamine.
Wow.
So when those chemicals get out of sync, the serotonin and dopamine, that's what's keeping us in
Mm,
that good mood, the motivation, feeling
wow.
good. I mean, these are all hormones underneath the
Yep.
surface, right? So when our
Yeah.
cortisol levels get so high for so long, eventually it starts to actually affect
Mm,
the serotonin and dopamine.
wow.
And you start to feel it in your body. That's what we talk about.
Mm,
Like there's actually
yep.
something going on chemically, it's starting to affect your body.
Yeah. Yeah.
So at that point, you have a couple options.
Mm, okay.
There's the holistic approach,
Yep.
which some people prefer.
Yep.
And that looks like really monitoring your nutrition, your movement, because movement and nutrition are two ways that you can start to rebuild your
Yeah.
serotonin and dopamine levels. I
Yeah.
mean, exercise alone, that's why they call it the runner's high. There is
Yeah.
something about movement that increases your serotonin and dopamine naturally and your
Yeah.
absorption of it. But that requires a really steady regimen of
That's right.
exercise, like almost
Yeah.
like I have to do this
Yeah.
to
Exactly.
survive. The
Yeah.
problem is a lot of people who are in the pit of depression,
Yeah.
like I remember,
Not trying to run today.
I didn't, you are hardly have energy to lift a spoon to
Oh
your
man.
mouth,
Yeah.
much
For
less
real.
oh, I'm gonna go and
Yep.
exercise.
Yeah.
So that's where you've got to really decide, can
Mm-hmm.
I actually invest in these holistic things?
Yeah.
And when I mean by holistic, I mean we're talking nutrition, we're talking
Yeah.
making sure your supplements and your vitamins are right,
Yeah.
making sure that you're moving and exercising and hydrating and practicing boundaries and all of those things.
Yeah.
And I would, of course, add counseling to that
Yeah.
to make sure that you're working your mind properly and you're
Yes.
learning how to get your body to baseline
Yeah.
properly.
Yeah.
There's techniques.
Mm.
But if you feel like you're past that point and it's been longer than 2 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks is
Okay.
kind of the threshold clinically. Like
Okay.
2 weeks
Wow.
stuck in depression can
Dang.
be diagnosed as clinical depression if it's more days than not for 2 weeks.
Mm. Okay.
And for some people, 2 weeks is unbearable. For other people, 2 weeks feels like that's it. Like it's
Yeah.
been months, you know?
Yeah. For real. For real.
So that's the point then where you decide, okay, do I need some help getting my body back to baseline?
Yeah.
And there's
Wow.
been many seasons in my life where the answer to that was yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yep.
And it was the answer was starting a low dose
Yeah.
antidepressant under the care of a physician. You can
Yeah.
always start with the lowest dose
Mm-hmm.
and see how it goes. Have you ever been on an antidepressant before? And I'm curious, 12 years ago, what that whole
Yes. So
situation.
a little cray cray story too. It I feel like number one, I see everything. I don't know why, but I see everything prophetically. It's so weird, but like that I it's like I read into almost everything. I just see something and I'm like, wow, I feel like there's deeper meaning behind that. So with this being the 12th year, that's significant for me in my story. I don't know the fullness of that story yet, but before all of this happened, what's really interesting is I was on an antidepressant. I was in graphic design school and I broke the cardinal rule, which is you don't just like cold turkey because you're feeling better. Well, I didn't
Right,
know that.
right.
And I stopped. And I was bopping along my way, feeling just fine. But then it was like getting hit with a freight train, just like,
12 years ago. This was 12 years ago.
yeah,
So
yes,
you had been on an antidepressant, quit cold turkey,
yeah,
and then all of a sudden
it
you
is.
just felt the weight of depression just come
Yeah,
on suddenly. And
yes,
that's what led to your initial suicide attempt.
yes. And what I did is I broke cardinal rule number two. It's like, oh, well, obviously you just need to take some and it'll be better. So might as well take more. And I basically OD'd on it. And I remember so vividly, I was in design school and I started getting this pain in my chest. And it felt like someone was stabbing me in the chest. And I was terrified. And I didn't know what it was. And I remember going and talking to a teacher, an instructor. But I was so full of shame, honestly, I couldn't admit. I was like, I just think I OD'd on my antidepressant medicine. Uh,
Yeah.
and yeah, so that was a predecessor to, this whole crash
So,
downhill.
so was the suicide attempt the fact that you took a bunch of antidepressants to try and make you feel better, or that was just the precipitating, oh my gosh, things are getting out of hand, and that
Yeah,
led to
like a almost like a wake up call kind of thing because I shame is a part of my story. We won't go over that today, most likely at all, because we're limited. But shame is in my story, and that I had no idea until I overcame shame of
right.
how much that is a uh, grip of your identity.
Yeah.
It can hold you back from who you are. In our business and in our life ministry, all the time we say become who you are.
Yeah.
So it's just a unveiling really rather than a you got to figure it out to make sure you do this or this. It's just like no, become who God has actually created us to be, our true identity.
Yeah.
So that was just a seasonal marking, and because of shame, I took a major step outside of God, the Lord, and a relationship with God, which I'd had my entire life, even till from childhood, and
Yeah.
took away. So there was so many things. I think
Right.
potentially with a lot of people that's common is It's not one, oh man, I'm having a bad day, bro. This is
Exactly.
we're losing this thing. It was just like, oh, like I've once again, this is wrong about me, you know.
Yeah,
Bad, I am this, I am, and it was just further, further, further drawing away into the dark, you know.
right. And I could see with all of those layers, it's really hard to figure
Mm,
out what is going on. And then to have your previous experience laced with so
yes.
many difficult experiences and to now feel, why am I feeling this stuff again?
Yep. Yes.
You know?
Yes.
But the reason you're feeling this stuff again is probably number one, you have a higher tendency genetically, your nervous
Mm,
system's a little bit more trigger sensitive,
yes.
right? Us
Yeah.
sensitive people, sometimes
Mm,
your body's just a little bit more sensitive to the stress.
yeah.
So that's your proclivity to
Okay.
anxiety and depression,
Wow.
genetically. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's like my
Yeah.
mom has a proclivity towards type 1 and
Yeah.
type 2 diabetes. She's a type 2
Yeah.
diabetic. There's type 1 diabetes in her family.
Yeah.
Her insulin levels get off and she's
Yeah.
got to take care of that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's
Wow.
it's physiological,
Mm,
but then you add to it the stress of life and
yeah.
all of these other things, and it's going to take you and your body to the next level.
Yes.
So
Wow.
you just have to see it like that. Like you have
Yeah.
a this threshold.
Mm,
So you can always start where you have started
yeah.
with soul care practices, with
Yeah.
counseling.
Mm,
I would get into counseling, start working on some of this stuff, seeing what of it can be navigated uh, holistically,
yeah.
and all the while continue to assess, okay, as I'm doing these holistic things,
Mm,
am I seeing a shift in my body or not?
yeah.
Because you might be doing everything you need to do and you don't see a shift. I've worked with two
Mm,
types of people. I've worked
okay.
with people who start doing the holistic things
Yeah.
through the counseling process and through their nutrition and movement and all of that, and they start seeing
Mm,
alleviation of the symptoms.
yeah.
Whereas I've been in seasons where I knew how to do all the things that I needed to do. I
Yeah.
just A couldn't or tried and I still wasn't able to get my body out of
Yeah.
that mode for
Yeah.
whatever reason, hormones, chemicals, whatever.
Sure.
So I think then, with time figuring out, okay, is this getting better or is this
Mm,
staying the same and getting worse? And then that is your clue of what you need to do
okay.
next.
Yeah.
And of course, always under the guidance of a good medical doctor or a psychiatrist. The difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist, psychiatrists are the ones prescribing medication.
Yeah.
They've been in medical school.
Yeah.
Most medical doctors, like general, family, internal,
Yeah.
they have experience with the basic
Yeah.
antidepressants
Yeah.
that many people are on, things
Yeah.
like Lexapro or Zoloft or, Cymbalta, or there's just so many, Wellbutrin, there's so many different kinds.
Yeah.
And discussing with your doctor, hey, I'm having these symptoms, it's not going away,
Yeah.
and taking that step. So have you not been on medication since in 12 years?
So the really neat thing that I was hoping that I would get to share some today is when I wrote to you about being on this show, I had not been on antidepressants again. Well, I am uh, currently on antidepressants, and it's been over a month now, and I have seen a tremendous um, change in very simple ways. And
Wow.
that's what I was hoping to be able to share it, because it's just interesting how the Lord will bring people to you for the moment to, to get over that next thing. I wasn't afraid necessarily in my mind of going on antidepressants, but my body was, the
Right, right,
trauma was
right.
like associating, oh, little pill, you're going to die. A little pill.
And you know what's funny? Sometimes even those exaggerated thoughts
Mm-hmm.
are indicators that your
Yes.
body is jacked up.
Wow.
Like like
Straight
when
up.
you look at the fact, I remember having to go when I decided to go on an antidepressant, I remember
Okay.
having these crazy thoughts and fears. And
Mm.
the doctor said, the fact that you're so anxious
Yeah.
shows me that you probably need this. Like, that is
I need
proof
this,
in and
girl.
of itself that
Yeah.
your body is
Yeah.
not
Yes.
functioning where it needs to be. Because
Yes.
normally I would have some anxiety, but
Yeah.
it wouldn't be to that level. Like,
Yeah.
everything was jacked up in
Yep.
that season, and
Yep.
everything's overwhelming and everything's scary. And
Yes.
so your body was
Yes.
like crying out, but you finally you decided, okay, this is moderate to severe,
Yep.
and I've tried all of
You
these
were a
things.
huge help, seriously. Like, okay, timeline is real quick because our timeline was I I'm not doing good. My wife knows, baby, you're not doing well.
Yeah.
And I'm in Walmart parking lot listening to you, and I'm like, shoot, we buying this book now. I'm like, I think I'm about to get delivered. That's literally what came up in my heart. It's like, I think I'm actually about to be healed, right? And then it was days later that I was going through this infection, okay? Uh, and it was tooth related, and my pain went like it was insane. I never felt that, and my wife had to call a friend, took me to the ER. My blood pressure was like 190 over something,
Wow.
and they were like, "I don't think you're doing well," and I'm like, "Yeah." I couldn't even talk. I was in so much pain, and that led me to getting in touch with the doctor. So this is like days after I get exposed to the book, right? Leads me to go to a doctor, and in my heart, I was like, I know that this is a part of my soul care. I cannot forsake this time. I gotta do this, and I gotta put
Taking care
myself
of your
down.
body.
That's right. I had to go to three different doctors, and the third one was the money. The dude, so we were missionaries. We spent time in East Africa, Tanzania, Uganda, and the guy had been to Africa, also contracted malaria. I almost died of malaria in Africa while we were there. Had a tooth infection in Africa. All these things start lining up, and he's like, Daniel, you've been in here like 2 times, bud, and you're not reading so well on the mental scale. What's up? And I'm like, I'm just gonna tell you how it is, bro. Like, I freaking am not doing okay, and I don't know what to do because it feels like my body. It's more than like here. It's like
Right.
everything from top to bottom is like you are not all right,
Right.
and the lights are turning off. And I felt scared, and he was a believer,
Wow.
and he said I would never. He's like, okay, same thing what you said. There's holistic. There's this. My wife is crunchy PNW girl from Oregon. Everything's like natural, natural, natural. I'm like, that's cool, but like it ain't working. St. John's ain't doing his job. Like St. John, fire the man. You're not working. Vitamin C, vitamin D, it's not working. I feel terrible, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Um, but and he walked me through and he said, these are good options. This is what I've been on. It's okay.
Okay. Yeah.
And he said, try this
Yeah.
super low dose.
Yeah.
Also, I was a past athlete, so I used to love to run 3 miles a day, all this stuff. He said, I know that you could try to hop back in that, but you're a dad, you got 3 kids. Good luck, buddy. It's like
Right.
it's part of
Right.
it. So let's put you on some BP medicine. I went down to like totally normal levels. And
Good.
that alone, I was like, shoot, this is what it feels like to not feel like you're going to kill somebody all the time.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
probably
Because
should not say that. That's not what I meant.
stress
But you know what I'm
increases your
saying?
blood pressure.
Just
So blood pressure medication and an antidepressant.
antidepressant. And literally, since then, it's just been like the way that I said in the beginning, it's been so impactful, but so subtle. It's
Yeah.
just like mindfulness. I just feel mindfulness for my tasks. You said something about your husband was like, you know, uh, having a demon or something. You just need to drink some water. Well, like I got a little water marker thing. I make sure to drink like a cow up in here. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. It might not be a demon. It might just be dehydration.
there it is. There it is. That's the goal right there. But
Yeah.
yes.
Because
So
now that your body is back to
yes,
baseline, you can start to do the work that you need to do. You can
that's
start
right.
catching up. You could start
That's right.
filling up in healthy ways versus when you're just leaking everywhere and you can't even
Yeah.
catch up, you know?
Yes. Yes.
And I am so happy to
Yeah.
hear that you were wise enough to take those steps and brave enough to say, listen, I need to get my body back to baseline, and then we'll take
Yeah.
it from there.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be so helpful to a lot of people. I like you so much. You
You
are
too, girl.
such a great character.
Thank you.
I'm so grateful that you called in and for your family and your wife and your business and what you're doing for the kingdom. Make
Yeah.
sure to keep me posted along the
I
way. I'd
will,
love to hear
girl.
what you guys are up to.
Okay.
And thank you for sharing your story.
Yes, ma'am.
Take care.
Peace.
Bye bye.